Hello, I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to the latest edition of Southwest Magazine. From 2012 to 2016, today's first guest, Brandon Sherrod, was one of the star players for the Yale Bulldogs during his 4 years as a forward for his college basketball team. During his last year, he set the NCAA record for consecutive field goals made playing Ivy League basketball. Now playing professionally abroad for the Roseto Sharks in Italy, Sherrod is proof that the NBA isn't always the logical next step for star basketball players after college. We caught up with Sherrod this summer in St. Andrews when he returned to work as a coach for the Basketball by the Sea program. Now in its 4th year, the Kids Sports Camp has helped captivate many local children in the sport of basketball. In our interview with Sherrod, he explains what traits it takes to be both an all-star player and an amazing coach. Sherrod also sheds light on what life skills and philosophies can be learned by playing basketball at any level. Has Canada become a force to be reckoned with in basketball?
Yeah.
I know most of our players are not Canadian, but
For sure. Yeah, I'd say so. I think you have a lot of guys who represent the country well. I think Vince Carter, I just watched a documentary on him and how there's like a whole generation of kids who play either in the NBA now or coming up in the ranks because of the influence that he had on the game. And I think basketball in general is an international sport. It's an international language. It's a way to converse with people and connect. And even if you don't know anyone, sometimes playing on the court makes it seem like you've known someone for years based on that connection. So I've been really fortunate to be here playing basketball and being able to work with the kids here, and also seeing some of them grow through the camp and coming back every year and seeing how they've either changed both physically and mentally, socially, and basketball-wise. It's really cool to see over the 4 years I've been here.
Did you know that Canadians invented basketball?
Is that true?
I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, I didn't.
We say.
Oh, really? I guess I'll take your word for it. Because I feel like as Americans, I think we try to take credit for every creation ever known to man, or every invention ever known to man. But I think that's pretty neat. I think
one time a Canadian cut a hole in a basket.
Really?
And
oh,
then
okay.
you guys
So
did the rest,
okay. So we had the peach basket, no hole. We had to take the ball out every single time he scored. Makes sense.
We cut that hole.
There you go. You guys cut the hole,
Again.
and the rest is history. Here we are.
Did you see with the kids at camp here that there's more interest in basketball with Canadian youth now?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really cool about the kids in Canada, I would say they're much more low maintenance than the kids in America. So this camp, for example, there are a lot of kids that have differing levels of skill. And I've never seen a kid say, oh, this camp sucks, or I've never seen a kid come in super duper late, or a kid not work hard. And that's really special, because I think in America we kind of have this sort of complacency at times based on the availability of things like a camp. So I can go to a number of camps in the United States whenever I want. Every summer I know they're going to be offered. But here it's such a unique thing. We're here for 3 or 4 days, and to have these kids come in, be focused, be locked in, and actually want to learn and work together and be so kind and humble through the whole process is really, really special. So I think the game is, coming to Canada really complements the type of character kids that they are. And as a result, they're able to work hard and they have results to show for it.
What was your own basketball journey like?
So I actually started playing basketball when I was 14. I'm 25 now, so not too long in the grand scheme of things. I used to be a really, really big kid. I was 315 pounds. Lost 100 pounds between my freshman and sophomore year of high school. Started playing basketball, and here I am. It's afforded me a lot of really cool opportunities. I've been able to travel. I would have never been to St. Andrews, I don't think, unfortunately for me. But it's great to be here, and I've been able to travel the world as well playing. And it's just a really unique thing. You meet people, get to see places, and it's all through some skill that you have with a rock, a ball in your hand. And I get paid to play the game now. I'm playing professionally in Italy, and that's something I would have never thought would be imaginable, but here I am.
You went to Yale before that?
Yep, went to Yale. They don't offer full ride scholarships. They do have need-based financial aid, but that was an amazing experience. And I also met a ton of friends from all over the world there. And academically speaking, it was great to actually live out the student portion of the student athlete lifestyle that's preached so much going into the collegiate ranks. So, yeah.
What did you study at the time?
Political science.
Nice.
So I'm hoping to utilize that later on in life. In 10 years, I want to be mayor of the city of Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is my hometown. And I'm just really passionate about working for the people and making sure that I can see the results that I'm working with tangibly. And I think that's the best at the local level, being the mayor and whatnot.
A lot of people think that the NBA is the next logical step after college, but you're now playing basketball in Italy. What other options are there besides playing in the NBA?
I mean, for me, I understand that the NBA is an ultimate goal, and even coming out of college, I was like, yeah, I'd love to play in the league, and even now, I would love to play in the NBA if the opportunity comes up. But I've had my chances to travel and see different places, and for me, I think experientially, it's been really, really special to be in a place like Italy, to be abroad in Europe, getting a different perspective, learning a lot about myself by being away from home. And coming out of college, I signed with an agency, and one of our options was Italy. I had to really wait for it too. So we had other options in Iceland, Czech Republic. We had one in the Ukraine, and I decided to just wait it out. And so I left actually in October after my first year, after my last year of college, and that was a really big deal for me, being patient and taking my time and looking for the best deal possible. And so here I am. So yeah, NBA is the end all be all for a lot of people, but I also understand there's more to life than just basketball. It's just a sport at the end of the day. So I need to make sure that I'm bettering myself in some sort of way, and I think some of that comes with me being abroad and being away from home.
How long have you been in Italy? Where have you been stationed? Are your practices in English?
So I've been in Italy for 3 years. I was in Roseto, on the Adriatic Seacoast, the beach resort town, and I was in Pompeii this past year in a city called Scafati, very close by. And then this year I'll be living in Rome in a joint venture with another team. So it should be a really cool season. The practices are. My coaches speak English, but I've also learned Italian over my 3 years. So for me, it's easier to communicate with my teammates who don't speak any English. So some of them have had experience playing with American guys and dealing with coaches who speak both languages, so they can figure things out and we can converse in English. But for me, it was really important experientially as well to learn the language and to be able to be closer to my teammates by learning Italian. So. It's been a really interesting process and communication. I was just talking to the kids today about just how important it is to communicate both on the court and off the court in life. So trying to learn people's names, trying to understand their experiences, and then growing from that and gaining some perspective as well.
What are the biggest life lessons you take from basketball every day?
I think a few things, you can control what you can control. You're responsible for you. I think a lot of times in the game of basketball, we always think about all the mistakes that we make and all the possible ways that we can contribute individually, and you are in control of the things that the decisions that you make every single day. And one of the best ways to be a good person, be a good human, is by showing love to your teammates, encouraging people, being there for folks, and that's all under your control. Your attitude is something you control every single day when you wake up. So, and that's based on just the same factors that everyone else have. We all have 24 hours every day. We have to attack those as best we can and try to make an impact on people's lives.
A lot of people say they prefer to watch college basketball as opposed to the NBA. Is that true for you?
I agree. I think there's a certain grit to college basketball. Everyone's trying to make it. And so you're coming from high school where you're the alpha male, a lot of these guys, and you come to college and try and do the same thing. And it's much more difficult to control a game when the rules are so different in regards to the NBA. The NBA is more of a one-on-one, fast-paced, flowing sort of deal. In college, they really pack it in. The possessions are lower. The amount of game time is also lower, so you don't really have time to make mistakes. And guys are trying to make it. They want to make money playing basketball. So everyone's going for that same goal. And I enjoy the grit, the fight, and the hustle that takes place in college basketball throughout the season.
As far as college goes, there are equal scholarships for men and women for sports in the States. Is that helping equalize the playing field in terms of women in basketball and specifically with interest in the WNBA?
I think we're definitely behind in America in regards to women's rights, and I think it's something that we're definitely striving towards. I think we live in a very patriarchal world. And me personally, I have 3 younger sisters, and so one thing I try to instill in them every day is that I want to be the brother that encourages you to be your best self, and understanding that the opportunities that you have are endless. Now there are some people that don't believe the same things and want to belittle women in a myriad of different ways, but I think in sport it's really cool to afford women with the same opportunities athletically, scholarships wise. And I think the WNBA is just missing a few sponsors and folks to, really take it to the next level, especially because those are world-class athletes just like the men. So, Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's really like a money issue. I just think more interest towards the sport, and you're starting to see that with NBA guys going to the WNBA games and tweeting, and also the collaborations that you see on social media and how easy it is to kind of spread your message or gain some interest for a certain activity. So we'll see what happens, but I think America's behind, but we're on our way towards finding some equality, especially with equal pay, because I think that's just as important because we're doing the same job that we're doing.
The WNBA is still 50 years younger than the NBA, though.
Very true, very true. So it takes some time, yeah. And there were even struggles with the NBA early on, and the merger with the ABA, and trying to figure out which teams were going to be where and which markets fit. And which players were able to play on different teams to gain interest. So it's a process, but I think eventually we'll get there.
Any thoughts on LeBron?
So, well, his new school, I think that's amazing. Again, I think it's much bigger than basketball all the time. Like it's really cool for me as an African American male, personally, to see a guy like LeBron James giving back to this community, because I feel so strongly about mine. And also to provide a school, you're giving someone an education, which is super duper important in today's world. And something that's also extremely expensive, and many kids aren't afforded the opportunity based on their public school system, or even going through the guidance counseling process through high school, and also not being able to afford it because of the tuition is so high. I know in Canada it's not nearly as expensive.
It's
getting there though. Yeah, exactly. And so I think now the equivalent to a high school diploma back in the early 1900s or mid 1900s is now a bachelor's degree, and unfortunately kids come out with a great deal of debt. And that's unfortunate. So hopefully, more athletes like LeBron will use their platform and their money to contribute and say, hey, we want to provide kids with opportunities from the get-go that can kind of base their trajectory towards success. And I think he's doing a great thing. Not to mention he's the best player in the world. For me, I think he's the greatest of all time, personally. Yeah. There's no person who matches up size-wise, skill-wise, and athletically with him. He's really a freak of nature. And also a pretty selfless guy on the court. And I think people get on him for deferring, but he also makes the right plays all the time. And a lot of people don't appreciate how good he is and how difficult the things that he does on a night-to-night basis are. So
going to the Lakers is good?
I think it's a good thing. I think he did what he needed to do in Cleveland. Left, got championships in Miami, did what he needed to do, came back home, fulfilled the promise to his city, got a championship, and now he's able to live it up and kind of reap the fruits of his labor in LA. And also it allows him to set another legacy in another big-time city that's been missing out on a championship for at least 8 years now, since 2010 was the last time, or it was either 2010 or 2012, but it's been a while since Kobe was there. So I'm interested to see what he does. I don't know how the team build-up is going to be because they've been signing guys who weren't supposed to really be there, but it's LeBron James, so you can make it happen with close to nothing.
Do you have any dreams of going back to the States and playing there again?
Yeah, I definitely would love to do that. Me and my agent talked about the G League, which is like a developmental league, but there's not a lot of money in it currently. It's like the second division right below the NBA. And again, for me, I really enjoy the experience of being somewhere and not knowing anything and kind of just like learning my way around. And I've had the chance to do that in Italy. And so if I'm able to come back to the States and play, it would be great, and to be grounded for a number of different reasons, being closer to my family, friends, being able to even start things romantically. It's a very difficult thing being abroad and being away so many times. Yeah, I know. It's like come over, but at the same time, it's like, I'm gone. So we'll see what happens in the future, and hopefully that'll be an option, a lucrative one too, so because it is my job, and I'll go from there.
What are your strongest skills as a player?
Wow, as a player, I'm a really good rebounder, and I averaged like 10.5 rebounds a game this past year in Italy, which is really, really big. I also say that I'm a good distributor. I'm a good passer, and I think that's one of my most underrated skill sets. I just like the ability to create for my teammates and kind of finding guys in their best spots and trying to make other people better. Because as their confidence grows, so does mine, and also my willingness to defer also gives them some more willingness to defer as well. Especially for guys who are mostly shooters or scorers, they see me being unselfish, and they'll start to do the same.
And what are your strongest skills as a coach?
As a coach, I think I'm really good with like reading people, understanding folks. I think every person is different. They accept criticism in different ways. There's sometimes you have to be gentle with folks, or sometimes you can be a little bit harsher. But all that's based on reading a vibe and kind of understanding what it takes to get them going. And so I think I'm very good at understanding my teammates in that way, and also understanding the kids that I'm working with. And then also, yeah, just encouragement is so key. Like, I think a lot of times people get so down on themselves when they're not so good, especially at the beginning. And for me, I just think, like, even telling a kid, like, you did a great job, as they're working through something, even if they're messing up, is so important. Not only for the kids, but also for adults too, to kind of hear that and have that positive reinforcement is something that I try to do all the time.
You believe in the Bruce Lee theory of doing one thing 10,000 times to become a master.
Yeah, I was just talking about that with Coach Liz actually yesterday, and yeah, I think there's some beauty in that for sure. And I really don't even know the amount of time that I've like done, like how many shots I've taken. Like, there are a bunch of stats in my head that I would love to know, like all time, like how many shots I've taken, how many hours I've spent in the gym. So I think I'm either there or close to there. There is a great deal of mastery that comes with practice and repetition. And so that's something I try to work out every day. I try to make sure I'm sharpening my skills all the time. And I think it's evidence of me being a professional is that I've mastered it. So hopefully I can continue to do so on like a higher level and work on like the little minute things that kind of come into play. And we'll see.
On behalf of CHCO, thank you so much for coming to St. Andrews, and best of luck in Rome.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
To keep up to date with Brandon Sherrod's life and career, you can follow him on Instagram at BROD35. We're now going to shine a spotlight on a local hero, St. Andrews resident John Castell. For years, Castell has been a volunteer at Dial-A-Ride, impacting countless lives of people in the community who sometimes need a lift down the road, both literally and metaphorically. Castell recently shared a few stories from his volunteer experiences at a luncheon put on by Vibrant Communities Charlotte County, an organization that celebrates the selfless locals who volunteer their time to change our community for the better.
I would like to give three very short stories about people that are members of Dial-A-Ride that I've had the pleasure of being able to assist in a small way. First, I'd like to speak about a gentleman who was 75 years old and who had cancer, and who, in order to go for his chemotherapy, had to walk several kilometers into a town, catch the bus when we did have the Acadia lines to get a ride up to St. John, the early morning trip up, go to the hospital, get his chemotherapy, then had to sit around until 5 o'clock until the bus would bring him back after having had chemotherapy. And I don't know anybody here, probably everybody has seen someone who's done chemotherapy, totally exhausted, get back to his town and then walk back home. He found out about Dial-A-Ride, and I had the pleasure of being one of the people who could go pick him up at his home, take him up and go in with him. I made myself cry. I'm sorry. I thought I could just talk.
You're making me cry too.
But that was such a joy to my heart to be able to make that difference in his life. Another story, maybe I won't cry on this one. They're a middle-aged couple who were living on welfare. The gentleman would like to work, but they have no transportation. They found out about Dial-A-Ride, and they were able to get to town to get groceries or to the food bank to collect their food. And he heard about a job that he could get working for one of the fish processing plants. But he had to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he had to be picked up at 6 o'clock in the evening. And I had the pleasure of being able to get up 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning so I could go pick him up, get him to the plant. But here he was able to get off welfare. After he'd been working there for a week or two or three, someone at the plant who lived near him was able to drive him home to work when he was going and home, so I got the relief and could sleep in. But then he was able to get to the point where he could buy his own car, and here's people gone off welfare. The government was saved a lot of money, but this people then had the pride because this system existed in a county where transportation is difficult. And the third and most thrilling story is a young mother with several children, one of them autistic, not school age yet. And there was a program of special training sessions for this young fellow, but it was two towns over. And I'd been involved with Dial-A-Ride, and I knew quite a few of the autistic kids were being helped by the Dragonfly Center. And the first drive I did with this family, the little fellow was typical of non-social interactions. Sat in the car, made a few unusual noises, and wouldn't talk, wouldn't look at me. And after him and his mother coming in, mother was really very dedicated, and she was very into it, so she was learning how to work with and bring out this young fellow. And after about a week of trips over, he would come out and say, "John!" and bring the tears again. This young fellow's now 18. He's been through school, and he's just a marvelous young fellow. So there's my inspiration. Why am I a driver? Makes me cry.
If you're lucky enough to know John Castell like we do here at CHCO-TV, you know what a true gem he is to our community. Next up, Sarah Norman has been working at the St. George Food Bank for almost a decade. Vibrant Communities Charlotte County recently put a spotlight on Norman and what she brings to the community. Here's her story.
I've been working at the food bank now for about 9 years, so we do have some families that we've seen quite consistently over the years, and we have some individuals that we only see maybe once or twice every so often when they need. One of the things that I've been told before is they just appreciate being listened to. Being in a small area, especially where transportation are some of the biggest barriers for people, I may be the only person they've seen in a few weeks, maybe even a month, maybe even no more. One of the things I really enjoy is when I have an extra volunteer on hand, that means I get to be more of the greeter and the more fun person and just try to fill in the small gaps and conversate with people. I've been told before that I love coming here. Nobody ever says that, going to a food bank. And so I kind of laughed and I said, well, that's great. I'm glad you don't mind coming. And I said, well, what is it about it? And they said, when I come here, I get treated like family. I'm a friend. I'm valued. You listen to my jokes and you laugh at them. And they said, that's really important. And they said, I feel comfortable anytime I come here, and that's really important to me. So I actually have just a quick little story that happened to me last week. Just after, Joy, you had told me to share a little bit of a story. And I was actually seeing a medical professional just for a quick little checkup. And the doctor at the time said, what is it that you do for work? He said, wait, let me guess. So he guessed for a little while, and he was getting very close. He knew I liked to help people. He knew I was in the nonprofit area. And so finally I had to tell him, I work at a food bank. He was like, oh, that was my next guess. And he said, you know what? He said, when I was a young boy, he said, me and my brother, he said, the only time we ever had a treat in the house was if my mom got it from the food bank. And so that really kind of made me reflect for a few minutes. I mean, this man is now a very grown, respectable man, and he's reflecting on his time when he was younger and the treat that he got at a food bank. He said he had never had a treat so good except for the first ever cinnamon bun he had when he was 12 that he got from a food bank. And he said, please don't stop what you're doing, and please realize that any little treat, any little extra thing that you are giving could really mean the world to somebody. And that really did make me stop and think. And so I'll be honest, I always have treats for the kids. I can't always afford cinnamon buns, but freezies will work too.
That's our show for today. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Vicki Hogarth. We'll see you next time on another edition of Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO-TV, New Brunswick's only source for independent community television.